Hey guys, we got a really interesting one right now. Helene Garcia files a bill to ban weather modification and prevent chemtrails. But I thought it was a conspiracy theory, so why are we banning it? As of Monday afternoon, no House lawmaker had filed a companion bill. See, I thought this was a really interesting article to establish how this technology has an entire legal framework. Chemtrails and cloud seeding are real. Not only that, but we've used weather modification technology in times of war before, and that's actually resulted in us and other countries entering a treaty in the late 70s, 75 or 77, where we promised not to use weather modification internationally and only use it domestically. So the idea that weather modification and manipulating the weather is a conspiracy theory is absolutely untrue. And it doesn't just stop at seeding clouds to start rain. We actually started by navigating and increasing the intensity of hurricanes. And that's what we did in Vietnam. And we're going to read about that in a little bit on an article that I have on itschromo.com. I like to come out with these articles about 3 times a week, guys. Today's article's a little late just because I'm working on managing the new workflow. But I come out with these 3 times a week on really important stuff, guys. If you ever wondered about what's going on with institutional capture in our government, in the halls of our government and power. Have you ever wondered what's going on in the multipolar Cold War that's being fought by proxies, including in the institutions of our government between China, Russia, the banking elite, and the U.S. establishment? Like if you ever wondered about what's going on geopolitically, what's going on kind of behind the scenes, and in the context for some things, I got articles that talk about the shift from classical liberalism into neoliberalism and how that relates to technocracy and feudalism and the concentration of wealth over the past century. And I also have articles about solutions on how to fix it, on how to repair our inner city communities, on how to evolve our education system to improve it, all types of things, guys, on an alternative economic system that adheres to the principles of classical liberalism, but yet still takes it has massive trust protections and monopoly protections. All right. So I really, guys, check out the articles on itschromo.com. There's a lot of stuff there. It's a real intellectual resource for anyone who's confused about what's going on in the world, confused about how to define themselves in that environment, and anyone that is interested in looking for solutions. All that stuff is covered at itschromo.com. So really, guys, check it out. I really appreciate that. Let's see. Miami Republican State Senator Helene Garcia wants to end weather modification in the Sunshine State. Recently filed a bill, SB 56, to repeal longstanding Florida statutes that allow state-licensed cloud seeding and other artificial weather interference and ban any such practices into the future. If passed, the measure would repeal more than a dozen provisions relating to the licensing, regulation, and control of weather modification meant to cause or disperse rain, snow, fog, or other atmospheric conditions. So interesting, right? Because apparently none of this technology exists. Apparently it's all a conspiracy theory, some right-wing Pepe the Frog meme posting dude must be saying this stuff, right? No, this is real. This is happening. Not only that, there's government documents relating to this stuff dating back decades, guys, over half a century at this point. It also would prohibit the injection, release, or dispersion of any substance or apparatus into the atmosphere within Florida's borders for the express purpose of affecting the temperature, the weather, or the intensity of light. And there's been a lot of research that has been done about how cloud seeding and weather modification technology that a lot of places around the world are using to try to reverse desertification and different things like that are actually impacting the sunlight and the sunlight that makes it to the ground and the hours of sunlight in the day. It's really interesting, guys. Violators could face second-degree misdemeanor charges, punishable by up to 60 days in jail and an up to $10,000 fine, a sum far higher than the usual $500 penalty associated with a second-degree misdemeanor. Now, it's interesting that they're keeping it a slap on the wrist, bro. I would make it a felony. Dude, if you're making it illegal for people to manipulate the atmosphere, I would make it a felony. This is the crazy thing. A lot of the intense weather systems that we're seeing, is it related to weather manipulation and countries and people using systems to try to, like Dubai, right? Enhancing rain to reverse desert. And didn't they cause themselves a hurricane by accident the other day? They flooded everything. Like, what effect does this have on, like, temperature distributions, right? Because wind patterns are governed by barometric pressure, which is governed by how temperatures in different areas relate to one another, which causes movement. And so how does this type of weather manipulation affect things, especially if it's been in use for the past 60 years? You see what I'm saying? As of Monday afternoon, no House lawmaker had filed a companion bill. Garcia said in a statement that the bill excises outdated provisions in state law and enhances our regulatory framework to prevent misuse. It's very important to prevent misuse of something as critical as weather modification technology, guys. It's crucial for us to engage in this conversation, as our constituents deserve to know that their government is taking their concerns seriously and is committed to responsible oversight. And people are not going to feel like that if you keep dismissing them as conspiracy theorists over stuff that's documented in the news on a regular basis. Our army came out years ago, I think in like 2004, 2007, talking about a beta pilot program they were testing with cloud seeding. Dude, you can't post publicly in the news companies and pilot programs and all this stuff going on, and then tell people that when they want to talk to you about oversight and how it's affecting their lives, all of a sudden they're a conspiracy theorist, bro. Based on Garcia's recent social media activity, her concern about the issue stems at least in part from the chemtrails conspiracy theory. It's a decades-old debunked belief that contrails, the white lines of condensed water vapor that the jets leave behind, are in fact toxic chemicals that the government and other entities are using to do everything from altering the weather to sterilizing and mind controlling the populace. Here's the thing. That whole framing device is an absolute lie. That's not, people do not claim that the white trails coming off of planes are chemtrails. Contrails are very specific and they dissipate very quickly. You can tell the difference between a contrail that dissipates as it's following the plane and a chemtrail that sits there way after the plane is gone. The plane draws it into a grid formation, and then later in that day, it's entirely overcast. Dude, we're about to read on my article, which I have sources, guys. Every article on itschromo.com has got a bibliography of mainstream trustworthy sources for you guys to go and check out and do your own research. In fact, each bibliography is really designed, you could skip the article and just go to the sources if you want to and just do it like I did it. Just do your own research. You know what I mean? Dude. This whole idea that every trail, oh man, there's a trail behind a plane, it must be a chemtrail. No one is saying that. They're straw manning the argument because they're gaslighting you again. Chemtrails conspiracy theory began circulating in the late 90s after the U.S. Air Force published a report about weather modification. Yeah, because it exists. By 2001, federal bureaucracies had received thousands of communications about the fast-spreading concept, prompting the Air Force and quartet of federal agencies, including the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, Federal Aviation Administration, and NASA, to public fact sheets explaining what contrails are and how they form. Yeah, contrails are real. No one is saying contrails don't exist. People are saying there are also other systems. Dude, there's an entire industry of managing jet fuel and having additives placed into the jet fuel so that way this stuff gets dispersed as you're flying your plane. This is the gaslighting that they try to do every single time, bro. And we're going to see in this next article, it's all a lie. We're going to see treaties. We're going to see, dude, it's all, this whole thing that they're doing right here, they're lying to you. They're straight up just lying to you because they think you're stupid. Dude. A conspiracy theory that that's the picture, whatever. But beliefs that government and corporations were nefariously poisoning the public persisted and are frequently amplified after natural disasters. In April, Tennessee Governor Bill Lee signed a measure the Tennessee General Assembly passed, banning the intentional injection, release, or dispersion of airborne chemicals. Like Garcia's proposal, the Tennessee measure does not include the word chemtrails. Chemtrails is a colloquial term. A trail of chemicals, chemtrails. It's designed to be a response to the condensation trail, contrail. It's just a colloquial term. Debate over chemtrails returned again in October when Republican U.S. Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia wrote on X, after hurricanes Helene and Milton ravaged Florida, yes, they can control the weather. It's ridiculous for anyone to say to lie and say it can't be done. Absolutely. Dude, It drives me insane the level of gaslighting the media is willing to produce. They will have the military talk about a pilot cloud seeding program in the early 2000s, and then the next day they'll come out and tell you that you're insane for thinking that the military is engaging in a pilot program relating to fucking chemtrails. Dude, these people are out of their mind, bro. Green drew censure from both sides of the aisle. President Joe Biden called her comments beyond ridiculous and stupid. U.S. Rep. Carlos Jimenez, a Miami Republican, fired off a retort of her own online, writing, "Humans can't create or control hurricanes. Anyone who thinks they can needs to have their head examined. Except we did it in Vietnam." Dude, this is not even a question. This actually happened in Vietnam. This is not a conspiracy theory. This occurred. We literally seeded a hurricane in Vietnam as part of our war strategy, and we had to enter a treaty less than 10 years later to promise we wouldn't do it to anyone else. Dude, we're going to see in a second, man, the gaslighting is insane, dude. Green defended her post, pointing NOAA's library catalog of 1,026 entries of weather modification as proof. The list she referred to, which Garcia shared on X on November 29th, exclusively contains instances of cloud seeding, a practice that has been used. How are you going to say cloud seeding is not real? Cloud seeding is the chemtrails. So they're both telling you right now that you're insane for believing it, and it's already happened since the 50s. They're saying both right now. You're crazy if you think it's happening, but it's completely normal. It's been happening since the 50s. Don't question it. Dude, it's crazy. How do you not read this and not want to punch whoever wrote it in the face, dog? Like when I read this, my emotional reaction is I want to rock this dude in the face and say it again. Just say it again. Why don't you just say it again? Dude. Been used since the 1950s to dissipate or add moisture to the air to create or mitigate fog, rain, hail, and snow. Salts are the most commonly used in the U.S., though the Arab Emirates use electric charges to cause rainfall since 2021, and Germany tested the use of infrared laser pulses. And they call it salts. It's a mixture of barium, aluminium, other compounds. There's one that starts with a C. I forget. I'm just blanking. But it's a mix of different compounds that they use. They mix it into jet fuel so that it comes right out the back of the plane, and it sits there in the air, and it's designed to attract water particles, right? Because as it sits, it's so light, it sits and it magnetically attracts those water particles to surround it to begin seeding those clouds. That's how the technology is supposed to work. At least the version that we've been using since the 50s. Hey, stop it. Sorry, guys, that's my dog. She thinks she can get away with it when I'm over here on the mic. Florida's statutes governing artificial weather modification were first enacted in 1957 and have since undergone several updates. As they stand, they provide for the licensing, regulation, and control of artificial weather interference to cause rain, snow, hail, moisture, or water in any form contained in the atmosphere. But you're crazy if you think it exists, dude. Make clear, no person or corporation may artificially interfere with the weather without a license from Florida's Department of Environmental Protections. But it doesn't exist. Outline qualification and application requirements at the cost of $1,000 for applying for the license to artificially interfere with the weather, and $10,000 or $100,000 for penalties if such activities cause injury, death, or property damage, except it causes all three due to the exposure to the compounds that are being used. Dude, what is happening off the coast of Delaware right now? The plant life in the forests are dying, and nobody knows why, except they're finding ridiculous amounts of aluminium in the bark of the trees. And they just said in this article it's that they've been doing this crap since the 50s, except it's also not happening. So, dude, no, there is property damage and there is loss of life due to this stuff. What about Alzheimer's and its connection to aluminum exposure? Okay, dude, there's stuff we got to look into out here, man. Dude, require licenses to publish a notice of intention to artificially interfere with the weather in a local newspaper or specify the area of activity. So that's probably why we see these articles pop out. And in between, they're telling you it doesn't exist, and then we see these little notes, these little notices. Allow for emergency licensing wherein the DEP may allow weather modification activity without requiring certain steps, including publication of notice of intention if the department deems it is necessary to put out fire, disperse fog, or address some other pressing peril. Interesting. So they've even got emergency infrastructure to just go ahead and release this weather modification technology without telling anyone, just because it's a serious enough situation. We got to get stuff done now. Except it also doesn't exist. What the heck, bro? Florida Politics contacted Garcia for a comment Monday but received no response by press time. In an ex-post Sunday featuring pictures of contrails and a screen cap on Instagram post referring to SB 56 coming amid claims that Hurricanes Helene and Milton were deliberately manipulated, Garcia thanked people who contacted her with constructive input and respectful dialogue about the bill. Yeah, dude, we have used cloud seeding to seed hurricanes before. And we can direct hurricanes by seeding the clouds. Dude, look up the military. God, I've seen a newscast of the video. I should have recorded it. It was before I was doing all these videos. Dude, military planes were making their way into the hurricane before it even hit landfall. And you can argue maybe they were trying to cloud seed in order to disperse. Maybe they were trying to, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe it was designed to save lives because so many lives were already going to be lost anyway. I'm not trying to say that there's some evil intention there. But what I am saying is, dude, to act like government weather modification technology doesn't exist is a lie. To act like we've never seeded a hurricane before and use it to destroy property is also a complete lie. So the narrative that they're trying to establish here is completely established on falsehoods. As a leader of the community, I am committed to addressing the real issues that affect our communities, she wrote, tagging the X accounts of Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis, Elon Musk, and the Florida Senate. As a mother, daughter, and community member, I care deeply about our neighborhoods. I look forward to taking our challenges and turning them into meaningful discussions and work together to shape impactful policies. I welcome your continued engagement. Interim committee meetings for the 2025 legislative session began in the House on Monday and will commence in the Senate next week. Regular House session starts March 4th to May 2nd. So, man, we see here, they're trying to say it's a lie. Chemtrails don't exist. These people are out of their mind. They're just conspiracy theorists for thinking that we need to address our regulatory system for chemtrails. They don't exist. They're a bunch of conspiracy theorists, except here's the regulatory system that already exists in Florida for weather modification and apparently has existed since 1957. So how are we lying? How are we conspiracy theorists? Huh? So this is my article on itschromo.com, right? I'm going to just straight read it for you guys. This is a type of stuff that we have that I have on itschromo.com. I'm really the type of dude that's just all about providing context, man. I think that the main issue that people don't have for their perceptive understanding about what's going on around them is context. Okay, so that's what I'm all about, and that's what this article is all about here. Weather modification technology, clarifying the reality, right? All right, here we go. There has been a noticeable tendency within mainstream media to dismiss references to weather modification technology as unfounded conspiracy theories. Interestingly, this perspective contradicts decades of documented efforts to and achievements in the field of weather manipulation, which has been publicly acknowledged by both governments and scientific institutions. Far from being speculative, weather modification technologies have been in active use for over half a century and continue to evolve today and are even regularly publicly acknowledged by government institutions and reputable media around the world. Real-world examples. One of the most prominent modern examples is Dubai's publicly stated use of weather modification techniques to increase rainfall. The United Arab Emirates has employed cloud seeding technology since the early 2000s as part of a broader initiative to address water scarcity. Cloud seeding involves dispersing substances such as silver iodide or sodium chloride into clouds, which encourages condensation and stimulates precipitation. And then there is also the barium, aluminum, and I forgot the compounds I think that we use in the U.S. here. In recent years, Dubai has even developed advanced methods for using drones to release electrical charges into clouds, increasing rainfall by influencing cloud particles to merge and fall as rain. That's a lot healthier for the environment at least in terms of mineral exposure on the ground level and plant life, than using compounds, right? And using a lot of these heavy metals, right? Now, what kind of effect does that have on the atmosphere, relatively speaking? That's a good question. Do those electrical charges cause does it remove a level of humidity from the atmosphere? I'm getting into the weeds here, but that's the type of thing that I get curious about when I read that, right? These initiatives are part of UEAE's national strategy to improve water security in its arid climate and demonstrate how technology can be harnessed to influence local weather patterns. Beyond Dubai, weather modification has a long history. One of the earliest examples of weather modification was Project Cirrus in 1947, where scientists from General Electric and the U.S. Army Signal Corps and the Office of Naval Research attempted to dissipate a hurricane through cloud seeding. And that might have been what they were trying to do in Helene. Everybody thinks the government made Helene worse. The government was targeting conservatives with Helene. What if they were trying to disperse the hurricane? There were military bases on the hurricane's original path. What if the whole thing was to save military infrastructure? You get what I'm saying? Scientists from Electric, U.S. Army Corps, and the U.S. Office of Naval Research dissipate the cloud. Later, during the Vietnam War, the U.S. military employed cloud seeding under Operation Popeye, aiming to extend the monsoon season and disrupt enemy supply routes by increasing rainfall along the Ho Chi Minh Trail. The operation was conducted from 1967 to 1972 and serves as one of the most well-known examples of weather manipulation used in a military context. And right after that, right? 1975, 1978, we promised not to do it to anyone else. It was extremely effective. Modern efforts to modify weather continue to evolve. In China, for instance, weather has implemented large-scale weather modification programs, particularly before major events like the 2008 Beijing Olympics to ensure clear skies. The ongoing research and application of weather modification by nations around the world underscores the legitimacy and capability of such technologies. Many of these projects have not only been developed for peaceful purposes, but also scrutinized through international research collaborations, such as the UAE's ongoing studies with institutions like the National Center for Atmospheric Research. While many uses throughout history demonstrate the peaceful application of weather modification technology, it has also shown the potential for its misuse in military context. It is a real concern, especially in asymmetrical warfare, like what we are dominated with today, right? This led to the creation of international frameworks to regulate its use, especially in times of conflict. The Environmental Modification Convention, ENMOD, in addition to the practical use of weather modification technology, and largely due to events that transpired in Vietnam, the United States entered into an international treaty that limits its use for warfare and hostile purposes. The treaty is known as Environmental Modification Convention, ENMOD, and was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 1976 and then entered into force in 1978. The treaty prohibits the military or other hostile use of environmental modification techniques that would have widespread, long-lasting, or severe effects. So, guys, it's so bad, and this technology is so real, and it had existed before this treaty. It was around for 31 years, guys. 31 years. This is no joke. These people, these politicians, when you hear them say stupid crap like this stuff does not exist and it's not real, primary them, bro. This is so simple to look up. This is like whoever is coming at you and telling you you're a conspiracy theorist for understanding that this stuff is real, they are uninformed, and they are the type to just try to say what they think is popular. Don't trust them, dude. When you see somebody acting like this, primary their ass. Under ENMOD, environmental modification refers to any technique for changing the dynamics, composition, or structure of the Earth's atmosphere or outer space, such as using weather modification to cause floods, droughts, or hurricanes. I thought they couldn't do that. I thought that was impossible. What was up with the hurricane that the two hurricanes, all of a sudden these two hurricanes form in the Gulf and then start heading east out of nowhere? Almost never happened in history. What's going on with that? And why were there military vessels and boats right at the center of those hurricanes as they were forming? As they were forming, you see, there is another form of cloud seeding technology that is done from a boat from sea level. And you literally can watch them pump the cloud out. It like comes off the boat and it ends up forming. It's pretty wild. I should have had that ready for this, but I didn't, unfortunately. But no, this stuff is real, guys. And there are major questions. Now, I'm not saying they were causing it and that our government's attacking us with the weather or whatever. Maybe they were maybe they saw it developing and they were trying to make it less intense. I don't have the insight to be able to say good guy, bad guy, good, evil, whatever. I'm just saying this stuff is real and it's related to Helene. Okay, based on military movements, because the military has to publish the movements of their vessels, their like maritime operations for the public to scrutinize. And so people were able to see military movements of military vehicles involved in Helene and the other one just before it that dissipated as soon as it hit Tampa. The convention does not prohibit the use of weather modification techniques for peaceful domestic purposes, which is why projects like cloud seeding for resource management are allowed as long as they are not used with hostile intent. The U.S. is a signatory to this treaty and has agreed to abide by its terms, meaning that while domestic use of weather modification technology such as cloud seeding for agriculture or water management purposes is permitted, it cannot be employed in international conflict or warfare. This international framework highlights the balance between utilizing weather modification technology for beneficial purposes and restricting its use in ways that could have devastating environmental consequences or geopolitical consequences. So, this is where I had to establish the background, right? Now, this is where we go into the combating misinformation part. Despite this well-documented history, many discussions of weather modification are met with skepticism or labeled as fringe theories. This contradiction between the reality of these technologies and the media's portrayal points to a larger issue of narrative framing. And that's something we talk about in this show all the time. It's all about media framing because framing is how they lie to you while pretending they didn't lie to you, okay? By dismissing the potential uses and dangers of weather manipulation as outlandish, the public is often deprived of a nuanced understanding of both its capabilities and its limitations. While the dismissal of weather modification technology as a fringe idea may stem from the lack of transparency or public understanding, it's crucial to recognize that active weather modification projects exist, and many have been subject to international scrutiny. Whether to address water scarcity or for other strategic purposes, the nations like the UAE, China, and the US demonstrate that weather manipulation is not far off fantasy, but a present ongoing reality. Discussions from weather modification should be grounded in scientific reality, but increased public awareness and responsible discourse on these technologies are essential to foster a more informed conversation about their potential uses and limitations. And let's go into some of these things here, guys. Because This is the type of stuff that I have in my read more sections, guys. It's stuff for you to get your own perspective. This is popularscience.com. With Operation Popeye, the U.S. government made weather an instrument of war. As a geoengineering project soar, the declassified project is newly relevant. March 2018, declassified. They tried to claim Operation Popeye was a conspiracy theory and not real before that. Okay? So, dude, not only that, what do we got here? Okay, this one is not doing it right, but Project Storm Fury. You can see Project Storm Fury was an ambitious experimental program of hurricane modification carried out between 1962 and 1983. It was designed to involve artificial simulation of convection outside the eye wall. Okay, so this stuff is real. What's next? U.S. State Department Convention on the Prohibition of Military or Other Hostile Use of Environmental Modification Techniques. The U.S. State Department. Okay? Dude, like, what else do we need? What else do we need at this point? Beijing aims to control weather at the Olympics. Dude. Look at this. Beijing aims to control weather at the Olympics as they prepare to host the Olympics, an event whose very purpose is to push the limits of human beings. The Chinese are trying to do what man never has: control the weather. Wow. So this stuff is real, guys. It happens all the effing time, man. Cloud seeding in the United Arab Emirates. Okay? This is not, my article wasn't a load of crap. I didn't make a bunch of stuff up. Please check out the articles and check out the read more section, guys. Weather modification technology is real. The gaslighting you again. And at least we got people in our halls of government, at least in the state of Florida, that are willing to acknowledge it publicly and start the dialogue, guys. Anyway, hey, thank you so much. I'll see you guys in the next segment.